You guys go ahead. You were, I'm sure, in the middle of a discussion.
No, we were just getting started. Cadence was going to share her thoughts on building a temple within.
Yeah, once I find it. Okay. I loved it, and I've stopped taking notes because I'm pretty much copying down the whole book, so it feels kind of pointless. So I don't remember which thing was really awesome, but like particularly. But I like how she talked about each of the months and the. Which part are we talking about right now?
Whatever part you want to talk about.
I was on page talking about Mother's University.
Yeah.
And how she talks about each month. Just kind of gives a little talks about that, and then at the end talking again about why do we do this in the book Joy, because we want to prepare them to live lives of maximum joy. Happy people create happy lives and a happy world, and that is so true. And cranky people, well, I'm talking about myself. Guys, I get so cranky, you just have no idea. But so I really need this, and I have had such a better week. I've been reading all the scriptures this week, and I mean, I've been reading every day, and I've been reading out of one of the Mothers of Influence books every day. And yesterday, I swam in the pool with my kids, and I just had fun. Even though I was supposed to be cooking dinner or something and just doing a bunch of stuff, I just said, nope, forget it. I'm going to go have some fun. And I felt so lighthearted. And I was sliding down this tiny slide. You know, I can only fit like one butt cheek on it. And so I'm like turning sideways. But my kids were having fun because I was out there playing with them. And I just forget. To have fun. And I get so stressed out, and I don't have to be. So anyway, lives of maximum joy. Go down the slide with one butt cheek. It's fine. Well, that's all. That's all I had to share yet. But I'll look through and see if there's anything else. Okay.
I feel like that should be like a new group motto. Just go down the side with one butt cheek. No, I feel the same way this week. Like, it has been such a rough week, and for me, and every time I went back to like reading from these books and reading what we were supposed to be reading, like, it just brings joy. And yeah, that really helps.
I loved what Laura shared about her conversation with her daughter, and like the scriptures she talked about in 2 Nephi 2:25 that says, Adam felt that men might have joy, Adam felt that men might be, and men are that they might have joy. And I was like really pondering that and thinking about that, and I was reading this and reading what she was saying in here, Marlene, in the book, and I just was like so struck by that thought, like education should be joyful. And I love thinking about that, like last year when we started using Well Educated Heart, that I felt more joyful and my kids felt more joyful in school, in our school, whatever we were doing. And so much from the time that I've started homeschooling my kids from the very beginning, I was like, this feels so much better. And that made me think about that. And then also just the idea that that Lord shared too, that like joy is in the footnote, that scripture is like becoming more, or our, what was it? I wrote it down, like our potential to become like Heavenly Father. And then she also brought up I think it's from, I don't know, education is between a child's heart and God. And I was just thinking about all those things and really pondering that. So I really love that she shared that. And so I shared it with my kids. I asked my son, my oldest, I was like, Parley, what do you think education, what's the reason we get educated? He's like, so we can be smarter. I'm like, no. And I'm like, clearly I've been missing the point here with your guys' education. So then I said, well, so then I shared those things that Laura shared. And they were like, interesting. And so I said, I think you guys should pray about what you should be studying, just like we did last year, and really think about those things that bring you real joy, like the real kind of joy. And think about that as you're praying and asking Heavenly Father to help you in your studies this year. And I was like, and I'm going to do the same thing. Anyways, so that was an interesting and very timely. Also, I love that she said that they have PPIs with their kids once a month. And my husband and I have done that with our kids, but we were trying to do it once a week. And with 6 kids, it was really exhausting to try to do that in one, like we were like, we'll just do it one day, Sunday, right? And that was too much. And I'm like, now we're gonna have 9. There's no way. It's never gonna happen. So, but I was like, I could do it once a month. That's totally doable. I could do 2 a week, and then I could get all my kids in almost once a month. So I was like, that's brilliant. I needed to hear that too. Anyways, I could go on.
Taking notes on it now because I listened to it, but I need it written down. Lori's asking in the chat, asking Laura if she has time to share her story.
Yes, sorry, I had to run an errand, and I'm like, this is only an hour. Why do I have to do this right now? Sorry, but okay, so thank you, Ida. That I really debated and felt like, should I share that or not? And I am so glad it made such a difference. And then I kept thinking, did I say it right? Did I really, I feel like I never share my thoughts very well. And so I'm glad that you got the points of what I was trying to share. But basically, for everybody else, a couple weeks ago, we had a PPI with one of my daughters, and it was an interesting experience because we sat down to do this PPI, and I felt very impressed. Like the Spirit just led me like, okay, now say this. Okay, now read this, and now do this. And I can't say I've never had that happen before, but at that moment, it was such a testimony to me that when we are prepared, and then like when we're teaching ourselves and learning ourselves, then the Spirit will use us to that knowledge that we've gained to then teach our children. And so like Marlene says, don't prepare, a month in advance, because, that really takes a lot out of, okay, now I need you to teach this, and now I need you to teach that. And so for me, that's this message that I needed to hear. But so we were sitting there, and it was like the Spirit said, start with a prayer. And I said, okay, so we started with a prayer. And then during the prayer, I felt prompted to open the scriptures. And so I opened the scriptures to 2 Nephi 2:25, which is my favorite scripture, always has been. Adam fell that man might be. So Adam left the Garden of Eden so that we could be here on this earth and have this mortal experience. And we're here so that we can have joy. And in the footnote of joy, it's our potential to become like Heavenly Father. And so I asked her, why are we here on earth? And suddenly I got the impression of, I had just read in Marlene's introductory little book that, one of the reasons to be educated is to prepare children it's not right in front of me. Prepare children to live lives of maximum joy. And I love that, like just putting those two together, it was like, okay, we are learning to become like Heavenly Father. Like we're here to gain knowledge and those things that bring us joy. And then how she quotes, the really famous person that we're always quoting and trying to frame our education after. I can't think of her name, but she quotes her and says, a child's education is between the child and God. And Heavenly Father really cares about what we are teaching our children and their learning. And so what their learning needs to be, they need to be able to feel the Spirit, and they need to be able to pray about what they're learning, and the knowledge that they're gaining will bless their lives. And I love that we have them at home and can give them that opportunity to learn about whatever they feel guided towards, where they didn't have that opportunity when they were going to public school. Yeah, so that was it, and it was a really neat experience for me and my family, and I'm glad I got to share it with you guys.
I had another moment about trusting the process that like was encouraging to me, because I feel like, okay, my kids, they're not doing anything sometimes. And yesterday we have these cows on our property that are not ours. They graze on our property and they drive me crazy, but that's another story. Anyways, the owner came and got a couple of them and took them away, and they're like they're like a couple years old or something, like 2, maybe 3 years old. I think they're 2. And he came and picked them up, and he said he was going to take them away for a while. And my son and I were discussing this, and I was like, that's kind of weird. I wonder if he's like, because I have 6 cows. 2 are like old moms, and then the other 4 are their babies, and 2 are a little bit older and 2 are a bit younger. And the older ones are girls and the younger ones are boys. And so I was wondering if the boy cows would get the girl cows pregnant, because they've been trying. So maybe that's TMI. But anyways, so we're taking the cows. They were taking the cows away, and so we were discussing this. And my son's like, I think it's probably they're taking them away because it's bullying season or bullying time or something like that. And I was like, what? How do you know about that? And he's like, I read it in that book. And so he's telling me it would be about this time of year, Mom, because then they'd have their calves in the spring. So I'm pretty sure it's this time of year, and it's only for a few days. And they take them and they like keep them the first year away from a bull, and then like when their second year or whatever, when they're ready to have calves, they will go and introduce them to a bull. And so he's telling me all this stuff about it, and like telling me all these things about cows and all this stuff, and I was just like, fascinating. And I'm thinking, yeah, I totally do that. I didn't know any of these things. And so then I'm counting, I'm like, they're pregnant for 10 months. Okay, yeah, I guess it would be like this month right now. So it was really funny. But I was just recognizing, and my 2 older boys have been like reading this book about, I got it a long time ago, about like homesteading, has all this information about cows and all kinds of things about homesteading. And so they've just been pouring through this book and reading everything and discussing it amongst themselves the last several days. And I was just like, okay, well, look at that. They're learning about the things that are outside. So anyways, trust the process. I was like, okay, it's happening.
I love that. See, and nature is God's university. So they're provided this like classroom. They're just like out in the classroom all day. And they just learn everything they can learn. I love that. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like my kids are just, like doing whatever they want all the time. Like, are they learning anything? So we took the idea from Rachel to do the bingo cards. And so I've been doing the bingo cards this summer just to see how it would go, to give them like ideas, like inspire them to just try new things. And it has been so fun to watch them. Like they'll just disappear for a little bit. Like my oldest will just disappear for like a half a day. And I'm like, I don't know what she's doing. She's in a room or something. And she comes out and she's like drawn this like gorgeous picture of the Nauvoo temple. I'm like, wow, like that's amazing. Like, or on their bingo card, it said like sit in the hammock and bird watch and then identify the bird. And I'll look out there and they're like, and they've already done it, and they'll still go back out there and be like, we're looking for more birds, because now they know how to identify them in the bird book. And it's really fun when they finally are like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, I can just like learn whatever. I don't know. It was fun because it gave them some ideas, and I can see them just learning on their own.
I'm glad that worked out for you.
Oh, Rachel, I love it. And my kids love it. I'm so excited. And then it gave us like an excuse for a really fun field trip at the end.
Yeah.
And I think I'll keep going. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I totally am going to do it through the school year. I'm going to change it a little bit and not do it by the month, but I thought that I would do when they get a blackout, that we'll go do something special just with them, like a one-on-one time, or take them to dinner, or let them kind of pick their prize they want to work for. But yeah, I agree. It's been so helpful to help spur them, because I think so often it's about, they just are waiting to be told, like, tell me what to do. And I'm like, no, you have it in you to be creative and get going and find these things. So it has been so fun to see all the things that they come up with, and just, what they're doing and how that.
Yeah.
How
I
that
feel
looks.
like it's kind of like what Charlotte Mason says, isn't it her that says like you spread out the feast and they can like pick and choose what they want. And so they're doing all these things on the card. Like you've given them all these ideas, and then they're like, oh, I really like that one. That was good. Like, and they want to go back for more. So it's kind of fun to see which things they enjoy and which things they don't.
I think too, the more that I've let my kids kind of be in the driver's seat, the more that I see them taking initiative, and I have to be patient with that, because sometimes it looks like they're doing nothing, but I've heard it said before, like just like us, like we have this time where we're like digesting and like soaking up so much stuff, and then we have to take like some time, and we're just like processing it all, like we're like, okay, let me think about that for a little bit, and then we're ready for more, so it's just like when you're eating real food, right? You eat and you're full, and then you go away for a little bit and you're good, and then you need to come back and get some more. And it's the same with our education. And my kids, I've noticed doing more and more of that. Like my boys picked up this story book yesterday too, like this book that's like I got somewhere, that's about a journey across America, and it's about this pilgrim, that girl. And we've been reading that book, The Princess and the Goblin. And it is so, so good, Lori. I love it. And they love it. And it's so funny to me, because I thought, oh, it's about a princess. But they think it is so cool. So it's amazing to see them take off.
We still need to finish reading that one. We've taken a long break from reading Princess and the Goblin. But it's so weird that you want to keep going. You're like, what in the world? There's like this old lady, like, what is going on?
I read it for an hour last night. I was like, I'll read for a few minutes, guys. And I'm just like, one more chapter.
No, there's two Loris.
I'm trying to find it.
There you go. Oh, I think I went to mute you, so I wouldn't do that, but now you got to unmute one of them. I don't know how to do it.
Okay, can you hear me on this one?
There we go. Yeah.
So sorry. So bad when you have internet problems. I feel like somebody just doesn't want me on here. George MacDonald is such a great writer, and those books are incredible. He's the one that C.S. Lewis talks about. C.S. Lewis loved George MacDonald and wrote a book about him. So that tells you something about the significance of those writings. So yeah, those are great ones to pick up. So The Princess and the Goblin and The Princess and Curdie, those two are ones that we've read, and they're just so much fun. They're so good. But I love to hear these stories. Now, am I clear or am I breaking up?
You're breaking up, but we can like piece together the message.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna try to figure out how to be on my phone and not conflict.
Okay.
Can I say one thing? Or are we on pause?
No, go, Rachel.
Okay, sorry. I am like on the go today. So I just went to the temple this morning, and as I was watching the Temple video, I just kept thinking, this is like a nature book, like in the beginning, in the creation. And just how got me thinking about nature journaling, and it was interesting because they're sketching everything at first, and then it's like when it's created, it comes to life. I don't know if anybody's noted that, but it was just so interesting to watch. I felt like I went into the creation in general with a different perspective of look how much time was spent on creation and how much involvement there was with how much time God spent on that. And that there is so much connection to him through the things around us and animals and nature and land and just all those things. I don't know. I just felt like it made a lot more sense to me than it probably ever has. As far as like why nature mattered. It really is, I think, the setting for spiritual growth, for us to have spiritual growth too. So anyway, that's all.
Awesome. I know, I love how we like start to see things differently as you learn different things, and our dialogue, everything is different, the way we think and talk and all that. And I love how Marlene put the rotation, like the nature, we can do them at any time. Like there's always stars, there's always trees, but she put them in order based on the creation. So the first month we'd study the stars, there was the heavens and then the ocean, the water, and then the rocks, there's like water and land, and then the trees, and then the animals, and then human body. And so I think that's kind of fun to point that out, that it goes in order. And I love there was one of the readings that we read today that talked about organization and order, and how God has order to all things. And then women, mothers in particular, are second. What did it say? I don't even remember now. We are like the greatest organizers on earth, like second only to God. This is probably just bouncing all over the place. Once I talked about organization, I was like, oh yeah, that was in the reading. It says, mother love works magic for humanity, but organized mother love works miracles. And when I read that, I thought, that's like these mothers of influence groups. Like alone, like, yeah, we can help our kids and help all these generations, but together, like, look at the miracles that come from meeting together. And then, let's see, I'll go on. We all know that organization is the one great thought of nature. It is the difference between chaos and order. It is the incessant occupation of God. But next to God, the greatest organizer on this earth is the mother. I just thought that was so cool.
That's really beautiful, and that kind of should give us hope. If that's a true fact, then maybe we could move forward with a little more optimism.
And maybe it doesn't look like organization in like Better Homes and Gardens, but it's organized in the way that Heavenly Father planned us to be organized.
Yeah. And I think maybe, I've been thinking a lot lately about the spiritual versus the temporal. And not that the temporal isn't important, but we've been reminded a lot lately that we need to do the spiritual first. And so perhaps that spiritual order, in the order of things, even in this well-educated heart pattern, that if we put that pattern in our lives and do things in that order, that things line up and turn out better for us and for our families. And we see that all the time in each other's lives. I don't know if we always see it in our own, but I do think that I think that's one of the benefits of organizing a group of mothers of influence, is we see it working in each other's lives, even if we're not recognizing how it's working in ours yet. But the more we see it working in each other's lives, I think we start to gain a little bit of confidence and a little more trust, or the ability to trust the process a little bit more because we're seeing some evidence. What do you think about that?
Hope. I kept thinking hope. It gives me hope and faith, right? It just builds my hope and faith because I see it's easier to see it in other people's lives than your own because we're such tunnel vision sometimes. And so it is. And it gives me hope and faith that, yes. But yeah, I agree, Lori.
Anybody else gain confidence from watching each other? Lindsay Watkins, sorry.
Well, yes, and the thing that's been constantly popping in my head for months is by small and simple things. And it's been funny because I've had a couple of little experiences that were just so small, but like Amy was saying, the hope in me feels so great, you know, and it didn't have to be this big giant thing that happened, but the level of hope it gave me is far beyond what I could have asked. You know, my little boy is really into Minecraft, and we've taken their electronics away during the week, but he found, and by that I mean like video games and things like that, but he found on YouTube a lady who does build Minecraft. So he just gets to watch, and they're like 5 to 10 minute videos, and she builds these beautiful things, and she makes sure she includes nature inside and outside of her buildings. And he called me in to look at one as it was finishing up, and he goes, "Mom, just listen." And she doesn't talk, she just builds. And he goes, "Do you hear the music that she's got playing in the background? It's so pretty and it's just soothing. It's not," and it was just something so simple. And then he'd point out, like, she always includes flowers inside, and she always has a library and whatever. So she's always including books. And so just little things that he's picking out. And then I was driving my daughter to her tumbling class last week, so we had to pick up her little friend that goes with her, and she's also homeschooling. We started at the same time, and to get to her little friend's house, we have to pass by the elementary school that she used to go to. And as we were passing it, I saw her in my rearview mirror, and I just saw her kind of longingly looking at the school, like, oh, there's my old school. And Satan he knows when to get you. And I had this kind of little guilt of, oh, maybe she wants to be there instead. And as we got to the friend's house, her little friend jumped in the car, and within seconds they were like, "Hey, let's pretend." And I don't even know what the scenario was, because they just started spouting off all of these things, like they were teleporting to the mayor's office and they were doing all these things. And it's a 20-minute drive to the tumbling class, and they were in character the entire way there. And as soon as I pulled into the driveway, I got the impression they wouldn't have time to pretend if they were at that school. And that was more of a testament to me, again, something so small that I'm like, she wouldn't have time to think up all these scenarios and do all of this, you know, if she had to just be constantly on that rigid schedule of the public school and not having her heart warmed. And so just by small and simple things is just what I'm holding on to.
I want to add to that some of the small and simple things. Cadence, were you going to talk? Did I interrupt you?
You're totally fine.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
All right. So I mentioned this a little bit in the group, how I wanted to start waking up at 5 a.m. And it's something small and simple, but it's made such a huge impact. And I've only been doing it for 3 days now, but that's the time that I can read Mothers of Influence, the Catch the Vision course. And so when I did it in that time where I didn't have interruptions and where I had quiet, I received a lot of impressions, and that was really neat. So as I was receiving impressions, I was like, this is what my friends are talking about. This is the experience they have. This is why they love it. So to answer Lori's question, yes, seeing your lives does inspire me and does help me. And then I see, okay, she did this and it worked well for her and she loved it. And so then another person did it. And the more people that talk about it, the more I think about it and wonder, okay, maybe I should try it. So it was a small and simple thing that has been a blessing for me. And another thing I wanted to share is that in my reading, also, so this is the first week that I've actually been able to sit down and read from the Catch Division course. I've done some skimming and I've been on vacation. So from the time that we started our assignment, I haven't been able to actually study it until this past week. And so taking the time to actually fit it into my day has allowed me to learn a lot more from it. And so in the past, I was kind of learning from all of you and what you were sharing, or I was just skimming through to learn some things, but it's really different to learn for yourself and to get some information for yourself. And one of the things that I was thinking about is how I kind of feel like it's a training center. By studying the Catch the Vision course, it helps me to learn what I'm doing and why I'm doing and why it works, so that when other people see what I'm doing and ask questions, then I have things to tell them. I can say, this is why music is good, and this is why we be in nature, and this is, like, I can explain better what I'm doing, because before I was trying it without really having words to express. And by studying it, it helped me. So that when other people ask me, because on vacation, my sister-in-law did ask, she was wondering if she's been feeling the desire to homeschool. And so I have words to tell her now. I can say, look what I'm reading and look what I'm learning and try this and do this, because I am filling up my own cup and now I have things to share with her.
Well, going back to the imagination thing. Oh, sorry. Well, no, thank you for sharing that. That was really neat. Also, I've just set my alarm again. We'll see what happens. I will get there eventually. Oh, my kids scream. Okay. So my daughter, we went to this activity and I've just been really happy with her because she makes friends so easily. And she's been homeschooled her whole life, and she's talked to people of all ages. And so yesterday when she was in the car, she had no problems talking to the other girl who we gave a ride to. And she had no problems talking with all the girls at the activity. And I just was so happy about that, because I remember growing up that I was really shy. And I went to public school, and I don't know if that's why or whatever, but I was just so happy because I think knowing how to talk to people of all ages is so important, and being able to share the things that matter to you and be confident in it. Here's a stupid example, but it was meaningful to me. Maybe not stupid, sorry. So they had to pick a team name, and she hasn't really had to ever do that before. And so I could hear them discussing, and some people were like, we should be this. And someone was like, we should be this. And my daughter said, well, I want to be the Gazelles or whatever it was. And it didn't end up being her name, but it was interesting to watch her be confident and state what she would like, but then also reasonably like say, okay, yeah, we can do that. We can do your name or whatever. And thinking back, I don't think I had that kind of confidence. I would have just been like, I would have just gone with whatever someone had picked. So I just thought that was so neat that she has this confidence, and I hope that it's from homeschooling. I don't know. Maybe she just has that personality. So I just want to share that little bit. Didn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about, but.
Even if it doesn't have anything to do with homeschooling, it definitely has to do with her being around you, being so much involved in these heartwarming things, because that's what makes the difference. So even for those moms who have to send their kids back, or are part-time public schooling or whatever, right. The heartwarming atmosphere in your home and the fact that you are doing things to nurture your heart, those are the things that are having the impact on your children. I mean, I really believe that. I think it's absolutely wonderful when we can keep them home. And I was lamenting with a friend the other day, all these moms who were sending their kids back, and they're ones that had them at home and they've just kind of given up. They don't believe in themselves enough or whatever. Anyway, I was having that conversation, and then I thought, well, you know what? I need to not worry about that. I need to not even take time thinking about that, because perhaps right now that is the better thing. Perhaps, yeah, I don't know. And it doesn't even matter. But if we can spend some of our time encouraging mothers to do what we do best, but perhaps we've forgotten, then that's a significant contribution to the world around us. If we can start holding some hands, lifting up some hands, encouraging, just supporting these moms, or even just showing them that it can be done, I think that's really significant, you know, and not judging them for where they are right now, or even assuming that we know, you know, what's best, because, you know, we don't. But I do know that this pattern of heart learning, of mothers nurturing their own hearts, that's the thing that makes the difference more than anything else. If we're nurturing our own hearts by putting in those beautiful things, storytelling and music and art, poetry and nature, those are the things that change us. We're watching it happen just in our own little group here. And they're the things that change the people around us. Lindsay Cardall.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. And I think that like we just work on ourselves and filling our hearts so much that once it gets so full, it just like has to spill out. And kind of going along with some of the other ladies earlier, like I think at that point Heavenly Father knows like, oh yeah, she's ready, I can use her as a tool, you know. And I have a friend that at church that I had, we've always just been like, oh hi, how are you, and that's it, you know. We've never really talked that much, but one time after church, like our kids were playing on the grass, and so we just started talking, and I don't even know how it happened, and neither does she. So just last night we had an activity, and she told me that she was talking about this time that we had talked, and she's like, that was such a blessing for me, like I had been praying for answers and blah blah blah. And anyways, when we had initially talked, like I just told her what we were doing and that we're homeschooling, and she kind of asked some questions, and I just talked and talked and talked, and she just absorbed it all in. And I worried I said too much and I was overwhelming her, but she was just like, give me more, you know. And anyways, like I had kind of told her about the well-educated heart, but I just wanted to give her time to do it. And I'd also told another friend, and I recently found out that my other friend like hasn't looked into it, and it's fine. And then I just assumed that she hadn't either because I hadn't heard anything. And last night I found out that she has, and she's really interested. And I just thought it was like cool, because for me, I'm like, oh, we were just having a conversation. But for her, she's like, this is an answer to my prayers. This was so perfect timing. Like just everything was just lining up for her, like through me. And I'm like, oh, well, that's great, because I don't feel like I was doing anything special, you know, but like it's just awesome for me, because like I just love the heart learning so much. It's like I just want to like, I feel like it's like a religion that I've just come to, and I want to like shout it from the rooftops, you know, like it just makes me so happy that I want to share it with others, you know. And I don't know if you guys are getting this right now, but since it's like back to school time, that's kind of the topic when you see people like, oh, are your kids ready for school? And I like hate it when people are like, oh, you're homeschooling. And I'm like, I just like, there's nothing I can say, but I just wish they would understand, but they just don't get it. And I'm like, I wish you could just share my joy, but like you don't, because you just, I don't know, you know. So it's hard, because I have so much joy for like, you know, the heart learning and the you know, feeding myself first and letting it spill onto my kid, all of it, you know. And you know, other people are, and I was like that too, you know, just like, oh, just send them to school so I can have my own time, you know. But it's just, you know, having all this joy inside you and like wanting to share it all. So
I know for me, it doesn't like bubble out until I've like learned about a specific person, or we've been studying something that I'm excited about. And then I'm like so excited to share about like, did you know this stuff about Marco Polo? And then I can just like go on and on about whoever it is that we're talking about, or a country we've just learned. I'm like, I had no idea that this happened or whatever. Then it's exciting for me. So I have to make sure that I am putting in the time and investing in like learning those things that warm my heart, because then it does bubble over. And I love that. And I can tell a difference in my life when like I am bubbling over and when there's not enough in there to bubble over. So I love those times.
Sorry, I have one more thing. So,
Yeah.
like Rachel, I actually went to the temple for the first time in a year and a half last weekend. It was so amazing. But I noticed like the art so much more than I used to, just because of stories, nature, art, poetry, music. You know, I'm just like so. I've been engulfed in that for a year now that like it means so much more to me, and I spent so much time just like standing in the hallways looking at the art. And then also I think I told you guys I was going to like an art show in Orange County, and I actually took some videos and pictures, but I've been too scared to post it to share with you guys because you're not supposed to. But anyways, it's really, really, really cool. But they also have like an exhibit where you can just walk around and look at like the art, and some of it is photography and some of it is water paint and some of it is oil paint. And it was just cool. I'm like, oh, that's water paint and that's oil. Like I could like recognize that now. And I used to always just want to see the photography because it's beautiful. But I noticed now that I am more impressed by like the actual art. Where in the past I was always like, you know, but like I've just been like, now that I've like learned about it for a year and like trying to teach my kids about it and everything, like it's so much more impressive and like means so much more to me now. So I thought that was really interesting to me.
It feels like I'm waking up a little bit. You know how you're kind of like waking up, you're like, oh, that's pretty, but then like you feel like I'm awake because the same, I hear you, the same. That's what it felt like, oh my gosh, where have I been? I'm awake now. So
Mm-hmm. That's a great description, Amy. That is what it's like. I love that. And Lindsay, I love everything you share. And I love that it is bubbling out of you right now. So that's so wonderful. I love seeing that. And look at the change that each one of us feels, you know, and has experienced. I love that. Anybody else want to share before we go to Linnell? And I know Linnell wants to share anyway.
I do want to share. One of the changes that I've experienced is that I never used to let my kids explore in nature or get dirty. And I thought it was a hassle and an inconvenience. But I've learned about the importance of this, and especially in the reading, like one thing that really stood out to me is we need to allow our children opportunities in nature so that they can discover, so that they can experience this wonder and this curiosity. Because otherwise, what they learn in history and all that doesn't make sense to them. Like, we have to learn about people, we have to learn about nature, we have to learn about stories so that the textbooks do make sense. And it's interesting how in school they've just skipped all of that and gone straight. Can you guys hear me okay with the wind? It's really windy. Is the wind loud at all? Okay, it's fine.
A little bit. We can still hear you.
Trying to block it a little bit. So anyways, my son is here. He's looking in the water and he brings 4 snails to me. And this is completely out of my character to allow that, but that's what Well-Educated Heart has done for me. It's changed me. And another thing that I wanted to share is that we've been on vacation for 3 weeks with family. So we've been out of routine. And my son the other day told me, Mama, I want to do school tomorrow. And to him, school means nature, art, music, poetry, and story. And so he missed it. And on his own, the next day, he got out a math workbook and he started reading from Childcraft, the nature book, and he brought out his own art supplies and started drawing. So when we teach our children this way, they want to do it, and he did it naturally on his own. He was away from it for 3 weeks, didn't have the resources, but I think his spirit just wanted it, and so he did it on his own. And I think it's very easy to incorporate even if we don't homeschool. The things that he did was in maybe 10, 15 minutes, but it made him happy, and that's what he was seeking. And so if we just start some habits and encourage them a little bit, then I think it can really enrich and bless their lives in the same way that it can bless us.
I love that. And I love that that was just something he wanted, that he was missing in his life because he felt it. You know, it's so much like going into a person's home and bringing the spirit there. And then you leave and that's removed and they start realizing, oh, that's something I want. You know, I want to be able to feel that. Same thing, you have that, the spirit in your home. Your children grow up feeling that. When there are places where they don't feel it, they miss it. They notice the absence of it. You know, it's the same thing with beauty. We feel the absence of it in our lives if we've experienced it. But so many of us grow up not having experienced it much. We don't even know that it's missing. We don't even know that that's something that we were missing in our lives. So what a blessing that we have, that we're finding out about this and being able to add this into our lives and then bless the lives of our children and anybody around us because of it. And I know sometimes it's hard, this might be a really odd random thought, but it's hard to feel like, oh, maybe I'm blessing somebody else's life. But actually this pattern of learning is unique to most people. We haven't had it in our lives for a really long time. And so it is a wonderful blessing and gift that you can bring to other people's lives. And you might have to bring it slowly, you know, by small and simple things, just a little bit at a time. Share it with your friends and people around you, you know, and that will begin to be something that they notice in their lives. Lindsay, I love that. My daughter has lovingly thought out and planned every detail of a lavish tea party, and she has invited her friends and has picked out music, poetry, and art that she wants to include. I love that. That's so very sweet. And then cadence, I've been having our family memorize the proclamation and reading aloud Treasure Island, and just little things into our routine, and encouraging my husband to listen to better music. And this week he actually commented that I've really helped him and motivated him to make changes and choose higher and better things. That has been really meaningful to me because sometimes I feel no one cares about this amazing work that I'm doing. I love that. Good for you. Good for you, Cadence, for doing that. Those things are hugely significant and will make a great differences over time. Okay, anything else? Anybody else want to share before we go?
Can I just say something really quick? First of all,
Yes.
love everything that everybody shared today, and just bringing it back to the reading of the temple within, as everyone's saying, like, yes, you're making these differences and you're sharing hope with other people, but also I loved how it said that, you know, God will come to you and comfort you when you make a place for him. And then he will use those tools that you have used to build that place for him to comfort you. So it just goes along with everything else that everybody's saying, but I just thought that that was so beautiful, that we have to prepare a place for him within ourselves, and he'll use those tools that we use to build that place. And that's what the stories and the art and the music and everything is. So you guys are wonderful. Thank you.
I love that, Carrie. Thank you for sharing that. You know, Marlene talks all the time about, you know, from within to without, right? You know, you start inside and you do prepare that place. I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, friends, shall we go to Linnell for a summary of today's discussion, and then we'll see each other next week.
I've been thinking a lot about what it means to learn by faith. And I appreciate how Marlene really includes the creator, our God, and a heavenly being that can help us and who wants to have a relationship with us and to create with us. And I was listening to a talk this morning about this, learning by faith. And a part that stood out to me is that learning by faith means having an assurance, action, and evidence. And if you repeat those things over and over, then eventually you are learning by faith. And so I was thinking about that and applying that to homeschool and how I have seen that. And I think, first of all, the assurance comes from, similar to what Laura was sharing, how her experience kind of inspired everyone and we felt joy. And so it's kind of like, okay, this is an assurance that it works and we have to trust the process. And chatting with each other in the Mothers of Influence group, I think helps give us an assurance that we can do this. We learn about that. And then we have to act on it. We actually have to implement it. We have to do some time, we have to do some art. We have to listen to beautiful music and spend time in nature. When we actually take that leap of faith and act on these things, then we get the evidence, which is also what we share, and how we see our children, their imagination, like Lindsay was talking about, or how we can see evidence in our children's lives that they're starting to get it, that they want it, that they miss it, that they seek it out on their own. And repeating this cycle over and over is what brings us joy. And so we get an assurance, we act on it, we look for evidence, and we get more assurance, and it grows and grows and grows. And then we can experience the maximum joy, we can share it with others, and everyone can be joyful together. And I think that's the whole point of educating our hearts, is that we can become better people. We can become our best selves. We can help our children become better people. We can come closer to our Creator and help our children know the way to also become closer to their Creator.
That was beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Linnell. Thanks, all of you moms. It was wonderful, wonderful to spend another Friday morning with my friends. And I look forward to next Friday. I'll send you the assignments. I'll put them out there a few different places so we can read and study again together this week. And I'll see you next Friday.